to northern Israel now, where the IDF continues to battle the Iranian-backed Lebanese proxy Hezbollah. Our Robert Swift is there. Rob, what's happening?
So it is a bit quieter here on the northern border than it has been in recent days, but that by no means says that nothing is happening here. The most recent security incident was just less than an hour ago, where there was rocket warning sirens sounded in 4 communities, including Shlomi and Rosh Nikra, in the far western end of the Israel-Lebanese border. This appears to have been a rocket or mortar attack. And this was not the only incident to have taken place this afternoon. Hezbollah has claimed responsibility for 4 separate missile or rocket attacks that have taken place along the border, mostly in the eastern end of the border, where we're reporting to you from. We're close to Kiryat Shmone. And from the hilltop where we're filming from, we saw confirmation of at least one of these missile attacks. We saw smoke billowing from close to the city of Masada, from the town of Masada, which did appear to confirm at least one of these attacks. And there is some video on social media appearing to show damage to Israeli community of Avavim, which is a bit further south of us. Now, it's worth noting that in each of these 4 incidents, there was no rocket sirens sounding, and this is due to the fact that this was likely anti-tank missiles that were used to make these attacks, which travel at a shallower trajectory and often don't trigger the rocket warning sirens.
Rob, thank you very much. Robert Swift there in the north of Israel. Danny Ayalon, the former Israeli ambassador to the US, is with me in the studio, and everyone, of course, is very much focused on what's happening in Gaza, but we cannot forget that tens of thousands of Israeli civilians cannot go back to their homes in the north, which has effectively been turned into a war zone. And there are worrying signs that Hezbollah is developing more sophisticated weaponry to get around the Israeli air defences.
Yes, and actually this is unsustainable. This is the main point where Israel cannot afford continuing with this situation where, as you mentioned, so many thousand Israelis are evicted from their homes.
Well, Hezbollah, the Houthis and Hamas all sent a representative to Tehran today for the funeral of President Raisi, who was killed along with several others in a helicopter crash on Sunday. Tens of thousands of regime loyalists lined the streets, while the leaders of Qatar, Tunisia, Pakistan and Iraq all attended a memorial service for him. Emmanuel Honora has this report.
If there was ever a time to show support for the Iranian regime, the funeral of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi would be the perfect time, with Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei presiding over the funeral procession.
As you have mentioned, we have lost a prominent personality. He was a very good brother and a competent, sincere and earnest official.
Massive crowds gathered at Tehran University for the funeral procession and did not stray from the official state line in their homages.
Some very dramatic scenes coming out of Tehran over the last couple of days. Well, with us now, Mariam Memasadehi is the founder and director of the Cyrus Forum and a senior fellow at the MacDonald Laurier Institute. Great to have you with us, Mariam. It's like we're looking at 2 different worlds, isn't it? We've got these online videos of Iranian women, some who have been clearly mutilated by the Iranian security forces, celebrating Raisi's death. And then we've got these black-clad mourning crowds in Tehran. Which is the true picture?
Yes, Laura. The people of Iran, the vast majority of the people of Iran have seen 45 years of repression and corruption from this regime. And that's why they have taken to the streets time and again to protest it. Each time they do, they brave bullets, they brave torture, they brave execution. And they want to send a message out to the world, which they have done through especially the Women Life Freedom uprising after. I'm glad that you're showing these brave activists who really, the women of Iran are heroes in the hearts of people in the diaspora and people throughout the country, of course. The first woman that you see had lost an eye, and the woman behind her, the young woman behind her, has an arm that she can no longer use. That's bad.
Supreme.
Well, at least the young women of Iran have a moment to celebrate, so that's something. Daddy, thank you very much indeed. Daddy Ayalon there. Now, what a difference a year makes. This time last year, IDF troops took part for the first time in Morocco's Africa Lion military drill. It is the largest such event in Africa and comprises thousands of military personnel from some 20 countries, including the United States. This year's event is about to begin, but without the IDF this year. Let's go to Rabat. We're joined by Dr. Mohamed Shtatou, political analyst and senior professor at the University of Rabat. Good to see you, Dr. Shtatou. And it was an historic moment, wasn't it, when IDF troops took part last year? Not the case, obviously, this year.
Well, the drill is very important for Africa and for the United States and also for NATO countries because it's we know actually for the moment that there are lots of dangers in the African continent, especially with the Wagner group encroaching in many countries. And we have seen recently an attack of the Wagner group on the Mauritanian village. So the African Lion is an important element for defense, for readiness, for interoperability between different armies from the NATO group and also from the United States and also from Africa. And I think that is very important because we know what's happening in part of the Sahel where there are lots of terrorist groups or Islamist groups, and interoperability and readiness for crises is...
Families of the hostages have given their okay for a horrible video to be released, which shows 5 young Israeli women who were captured by Hamas terrorists on October 7th. So the whole country very much reeling from that. And rape has been used, of course, as a weapon of war for as long as wars have been around, from the abduction and enslavement of Yazidi girls by ISIS in Iraq and Syria, Russian mercenaries in Ukraine, to the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th. The Knesset held a conference this week to establish a global women's coalition against gender-based violence as a weapon of war. And our Natasha Kurchuk was there. Here's her report.
It's hard to forget the images of Yazidi hostage Nadia Murad hugging her family once again after escaping 3 months of sex slavery at the hands of Islamic State terrorists. In 2014, the 25-year-old was abducted from her home in northeastern Iraq and then held by the Islamic State in Mosul, where she was repeatedly tortured and raped alongside thousands of other Yazidi women and girls.
We hoped our fate would be for us to be killed like the men, instead of being sold and raped by Syrians, Iraqis, Tunisians, and Europeans.
Nadia gave her testimony to the world a decade ago, sparking mass outrage. Her only crime was being Yazidi, an ancient religious minority in Iraq that the Islamic State deemed to be heretical for not following Islam.
And the 5 young Israeli women who were taken hostage by Hamas on October 7th have appeared in a horrific video that has been seized by the IDF. Liri, Karina, Agam, Daniela and Nama seen tied up, bloodied and clearly terrified. Ariel Osseran has more.